Hi, I'm William, and this is my project, Finding Liminality in the Datafication Dystopia. So my idea originated from these beautifully computer-rendered images of 3D Puko models, and just like the one on the right. And Puko actually falls into the category of liminal space, which is a space transitional in nature and also lack of stimuli. Underlying liminal space is the concept of liminality, which means threshold, or to say the boundary between reality and fiction, or the boundary between familiarity and airiness. And this is the major part of my project. However, I want to use my project to identify some of the social problems and address them. So the problem that I try to tackle is the datafication problem. In other words, the digital tracking and online privacy issues. So combining these two ideas, my project will be to build a digital liminal space for people to retreat and reflect on our dystopian world with digital tracking and privacy issues. And let's dive right into the literature review. So the first literature piece I identify is Rita Riley's Datavalence and Countervalence. In it, Rita defines the datavalence as our actions through technology being tracked and stored as raw data. And such data collection is not only monitoring our life, but also conjecturing and enacting on our life. This means that while data collection is already invading our privacy, such invasion is more aggressive because it tries to control and shape your life through behavioral targeting. And in this article, it also has some studies showing that people do not want such data balance. So my project is aiming to give people that temporary escape. Rita also goes on to talk about the countervalence, which is to use software and art to exert force against data valence. She deems that art as a more efficient means because art could be radically transformational because it has this dynamic interplay with its subject. And such dynamic interplay is exactly what liminal space has, as I will see in Michel Foucault's Heterotopia piece. So Michel Foucault defines heterotopia as a space that is linked to all other spaces but contradict to all of them. So here, all other spaces could refer to real spaces, but also it could refer to experiences and cultures. He also talks about the mirror, which is a sort of mixed and joint experience between utopia and heterotopia, between real and unreal. And this is exactly what liminal space is about. He defines heterotopia and the mirror to be having this following characteristic. It has an intrinsic juxtaposition, it creates a space of illusion, and it creates a space of compensation. So to understand this, we may take the garden as an example. In the garden, we may have fountain made from one country, the tiles made from another country, and the flowers from probably 3 or 4 countries. So being in the garden makes you... these elements have those contradictory elements, those contradictory feelings for you. However, being in a garden also makes you feel that you are in those different countries at the same time, so it creates a space of illusion. And to understand the space of compensation, we may understand it as the garden is relatively a perfect place. However, being in that perfect place makes you to think of the spaces outside the garden. And we may start to think that the space outside the garden may not be as perfect as the garden is. And it makes us to contemplate on our reality and make us to think about the reality. So that is what Michel Foucault thinks. He thinks that heterotopia is essential to the society as it gives people the means to escape from authoritarianism and repression. And that is what my project want to do. I want to utilize the liminal space and to use it to reflect on the datafication dystopia and to possibly extract some useful ideas from it. And besides such societal functions of a liminal space is actually good for relaxation and retreat. And in Anna Wiener's article, she refers to render poem, which is also a subdivision of liminal space, which is the rendering and residential and commercial interiors, also viral on Instagram. So it has this characteristic of being uncluttered and private, it is welcoming, but also undamaged by human use. More importantly, it is a space between fiction and reality, which is just the liminal space. And such spaces free the user from the constraints of reality. It makes them escape from reality, and such escape offers the soothing power of the liminal space. And that is what my project wants to incorporate, that is the relaxation and retreat from the datafication dystopia. However, Anna Wiener goes on to talk about that these liminal space actually focus solely on aesthetical values and escape. However, she refers to paper architecture and cabin porn, which are two art forms that actually address societal problems, i.e. they have the utopian vision. So what I want to do is that liminal space could also have such utopian vision. They can also address the social issues. So besides the retreat, it can also offer reflection and possibly rebellion. And in Richard Roll's article, he talks about how liminality can offer such possibility for reflection and change. He defines the liminality as an ongoing state of shadowboxing, and he thinks that liminality allows us to call normacy into creative question. In my project, the normacy will be the datafication dystopia that we get used to, and I want to extract reflection and rebellion from it. So in liminality, because we are in a space that is both unfamiliar, because it's unreal, that we are not in control, and it is also a space that is familiar, because it connects to our own experience. So that in that space, we are vulnerable and we are open to some genuine change. So Richard Roll goes on to talk about that if it is our temperament to seek security, then we run back to the old room. However, if we are pushed outside of the comfort zone into these liminal spaces, then we can actually make some new changes, make some real changes. So escapism is really futile, and focusing solely on retreat is not enough for my liminal space. And that is why I want my liminal space to be offering reflection and rebellion. So my research question will be to identify the current datafication problem as a dystopia and research into the idea of liminality in its various form, and aim to produce a 3D virtual liminal space for people to retreat from, but also reflect on and possibly rebel against the dystopian world of datafication. It aims to untangle the idea of liminality and also bring more meanings into this currently aesthetically focused liminal space. And some of the future steps I would like to consider is, first, why would people go for digital liminal space to retreat from digital life? And how exactly could digital 3D spaces be effective in offering mental treatment? And how to effectively achieve my vision of offering both retreat and reflection. So lastly, I welcome any feedback and comments on this project. Thank you.